When I was in high school, I was working on Fermat's last theorem, as a lot of math-obsessed kids do. I say, that doesn't look very hard. Maybe I can find a proof. This was before it was actually proved. And I wrote a letter to Martin Gardner, one of my favorite puzzle book authors, or math puzzle book authors, saying, well, I don't have a solution, but I've gotten this far, and what do you think? He wrote back. Just a few days later, I got a postcard saying, well, I don't know enough math to really comment on that, but here's a book you might want to check out. I went to my library, checked it out, and that was a nice exchange. It wasn't until years later, though, that I really appreciated how remarkable that was that he had written back. Furthermore, it wasn't just me. Everybody I've ever talked to who's written to Martin got an enthusiastic reply almost immediately, and usually with an idea of something else to look up, or another person to telling about another person who had a similar idea. So when I came to Stanford, I basically started to meet Gardner's circle. Knuth was the first one, but then later on I met Percy Diaconis, a mathematician and magician who was mentored in many ways by Martin Gardner when Percy was growing up, and Douglas Hofstadter. I met him in 1975. A few years later, when he was writing his book Gödel, Bach, really became kindred spirits. Hofstadter later went on to become the writer who did the column after Gardner's column in Scientific American. Gardner's column was called Mathematical Games. Hofstadter did a bit of wordplay, rearranged that into metamagical themas. Percy especially encouraged me, because I was a little bit shy, go ahead and write to Martin. Even though I'd written one letter, I wasn't sure if I could write more. So I started sharing with him some of the mathematical problems I was inventing and working on, and he wrote back enthusiastically and started publishing it in Scientific American. Well, that was a big boost. I said, I do have something to say, and I started to be known and talk to other folks, and so it ignited my enthusiasm. The sort of math I wanted to practice was the wonderful stuff I saw in Gardner's column, and if you go to graduate math school, that's not generally what they do. It's much more obscure. So when it was time to apply to graduate schools, I went around the country and visited several possible schools. I also visited Gardner. Turned out the Gardner visit was the important one. I met him for the first time at his home in Hastings-on-Hudson, had a marvelous time. He picked me up at the train station, traded stories, he showed me magic tricks. And I really wanted to see one of the things I really wanted to do was see his filing system. I mean, nobody had told me, but it's implied. If he's able to tell me about all these other things happening, he must have an incredible filing system where he keeps all his correspondence. And indeed, he did. So I spent a marvelous afternoon just going through his files, reading about the fourth dimension. He had a whole folder on that with all sorts of marvelous stuff. That was my current obsession. He showed me what he was writing about. He was writing about the puzzle sculptor Miguel Baracol at the time. He does incredible stuff. There's the thing to say about Martin Gardner that's important to understand is that his column in Scientific American always was tremendously exciting. As a reader, I always wanted to read it because there was new, exciting stuff. It's like going to YouTube and seeing these really exciting videos now, and I just couldn't wait to see what new things were being discovered.